Okay. Hi, welcome to my channel, Tea of Austerity. Let's set the rules right. A superior way to approach life is a risk-based approach. Companies have spent billions on consultants, on industry experts to establish a risk department so they can effectively manage their long-term success, or at least hope they don't implode like SVB and other banks. But I feel that because company is more short-term profit driven, risk management is actually more relevant and more useful to individuals, because what we really care about and what we can actually trade is our present consumption, or whatever we do at the moment, for a brighter future somewhere in the distance, maybe 5 years, 10 years. So for individual, we can actually evaluate and execute. But the big issue is, how can we commit? What can we do to stay focused and to get rid of all the distractions that we have in life? In the risk management industry, typically you can consider, well, there are a few ways to manage risk. You can mitigate risk, you can absorb risk, and you can transfer risk. For individual, it is really hard to absorb, I think, because look, you have a house, you have a car. Are you really not going to transfer the risk by buying an insurance? Probably not. You have jobs, you have family. Can you really absorb it by, let's say, doing something reckless, like throwing all your money into crypto gambling, like burning all your money in a casino? Not really. So for individual, your option is transfer the risk by purchasing insurance or mitigate. And that's where I want to focus. How do you mitigate risk? The way I viewed it, you had to ask some basic questions. What do I want in life? How do I get it? And is it really worth it? Because only when you answer all three questions can you really evaluate, what does something mean to you? And with that knowledge, you can start building on the different methods to achieve it. And then you can start talk about the different factors that may really want to derail you. Now, let me give you an example. Say I want to have a nice house, a beautiful house, in a city that's not too far from where I work. Now, that seems like a reasonable goal, but in today's standard, well, today's situation, it's kind of hard to achieve with rising house prices in major cities in Canada and the US. So let's work on that. Number one point, I want a big house. So number two, how do I get it? Current situation, I work in a regular job, earning slightly above median average income. So it would take me, I don't know, bazillion a year to afford a house, given my saving rate is probably close to zero every month, as most people are, living paycheck to paycheck. So what can you do? I mean, can you really take out a credit card to do this? Probably not. So you want to raise your income or cut down your spending. Now let's talk about the easy part, raising your income. What do you do? Do you want to get a different career? Do you want to work longer? Do you want to maybe find a side hustle? Or like some people decided to just throw it away, let's do a startup and I don't know, do some side hustle, freelancing. So those are your options to achieve number two, but you have to consider, is it worth it? Because with each individual point, we can probably have a 1 hour discussion on what it means. What are the risks and benefits of doing a freelancing? What is the risk benefit of doing more longer hours? But let's just take something very simple. Let's say you want to do longer hours at work. Now, why do you want to do that? Probably wishing that you can get a promotion. And with promotion, higher salary maybe, but you also know that with promotion, more responsibility, so maybe that's time for yourself. So let's do that. You want to work longer to get a promotion with a probability. And by doing that, then you start to evaluate. Do I really want to work longer hours? Because that means less time for myself, less time for family, probably staying at the office for longer and sacrifice on food and food quality and workout time. And all of these will have a long-term impact on your health and on your longevity and your relationship with other people. But are you really consider that when you decide to work longer? For most people, no, because how can you possibly know what's going to happen in the next 2 years once I go down that path? And for most people, and rightfully so, once they decide to do something like that, they quickly realize they can't do it. It's too difficult. There's too many obstacles once you start to do it. And you're back at the beginning. So let's just keep the train of thoughts going. You work longer. You start to cut down on your workout. You start to buy more food, and those foods start to make you out of shape. And because you're out of shape, you start to lose energy, and lose energy means that you actually spend more effort in work to do the same amount of work that you should do. Or maybe you have brain fog, maybe you don't sleep as well, and maybe that affects your productivity, so you're almost forced to spend more time at work. All because you want to get a promotion, but at the end, maybe you don't even get a high evaluation at the year end. So what do you get? It seems like you did something and that negatively impacted you. Can we call that risk? Possibly, that is a risk. And most people, or it is really hard for anyone to understand that. So, but you can't say that we can evaluate each individual point. And for the factors that I listed, like food, exercise, you can build contingency plans on that. So say that for food, you say, okay, let's buy a meal plan. Or let's get one of those startup that does food delivery. So we can do that. Food delivery, meal plan, and then work out extra hard. Or you say, I want to dedicate at least 20 minutes a day in the morning to do it. And maybe you can find the strong mental fortitude and will to do that. So, but then you can start talk about what happened when you decide to commit to one thing. Let's say working out. Now, I know for myself, when I start working out, I will watch hundreds of hours of YouTube videos, learn the best technique. Well, learn some techniques, but that's just something people like to do. And my mind will be completely absorbed by working out, do my 5x5, do my what kind of best protein shake to get, those kind of things. What kind of gear? How often should I run? And how long do I run? Like all that kind of question will be occupying my mind. And I think it's the same for me and it's the same for you. When you really focus or hyper-focus on something, you tend to neglect other part of your life. And that's what happens. And also something that when you look at risk, you have to start to consider is when you want to do something, when you put all your attention, when you funnel your attention into one aspect, you tend to lose sight of other things happening around your life. And those things will typically have a negative impact. And can you manage that? So you have to start to think in that sense. But we quickly realize this is intractable. You start from wanting to get a house to earning more money, then to try to mitigate the different risk from working longer, and each different risk comes with their own set of instruction, their own set of risk. So this kind of cascading event is almost like you're playing a whack-a-mole. You try to balance, and it doesn't really seem to work. It doesn't really work for me, and I think it's true that it doesn't really work for most people. So that is why I think it is very important to adopt a holistic approach to life. Because we're made of flesh and bones. We're not machines. I know we want it to be like a machine, a time-invariant machine, that we can just do this one thing regardless what happens in the world. Maybe whatever, it doesn't matter, rain, thunder, snowstorm. The economy is good, the economy is bad, friends and family doing their own things, we just do this one thing and we do that for 20 years and voila, we're at the top of our field making like $500,000. But no, it doesn't work like that. Not for me. Maybe for some people you can do it, good for you. So a risk management approach to me is really looking at the different constraints that you have around your life and really anticipate that you will be a changed person once you decide to do something. And that changed person will not think about the thing the same way that you think about it. And I think that is my insight. I'm not sure if someone else have discovered that, but I think people really need to think about that before they actually engage on taking a new task. Let me give you like a very basic, simple, or exaggerated example. Say you want to do drugs, a hard drug, recreational drug, like cocaine or anything. You know you don't want to do it, but you also know that once you start to do it, you'll feel pleasurable. And because of that, it is very likely you will start to defend this behavior. So the first step, you don't want to try. Then you start to try, and then you start to defend the behavior. And once you start to defend the behavior, the more and more you start to accept it. And then ultimately, you become, let's say you become complacent to your behavior. So you go from against doing hardcore drugs to defending hardcore drugs. And it is completely perceivable that this will happen to people. It happened to me, it happened to you. So what is the best way to do it? Is to don't even try. And I think this is common sense. But it really goes to show that there are something that once you start to do, you become a changed person. And when you become a changed person, you will not accept the way you viewed the world before. And that may not be a good thing. And if you try to make this idea, apply this idea to different aspects of your life, different aspects of the things that you're about to do, you'll realize that's one of the contributing factors to why you cannot, or I cannot complete a task. Because when I start to do it, I'll start to feel differently. And that's almost always a less than ideal outcome. Let's put it that way. So I think this is how my channel differs, will be different from other people's channel. Because you can go to any personal finance channel, you can go to relationship, you can go to self-help, and they will talk about, at least to my knowledge, talk about how you can change yourself. Like what are the psychological, the mental gymnastics you can play with your mind that will shape you into a person that you're not? And what are some tricks that you can employ to make sure you stay in this one path? Basically make you into a machine. And if you can really stomach the pain, if you can make the sacrifice, you can become that machine. And over time you can hopefully stay on your course and go and reach wherever you want to reach. But my approach is different, because I think that you will become a different person once you start your journey, no matter what it is. So risk management is about mitigation. How do you mitigate? We don't want to absorb risk. We want to mitigate risk. So that means you have to change the environment. And I think that will be the contribution. We'll be discussing about this fact for a long time. How do you change environment? Because it is not enough to change yourself. You have to change your constraint. You have to change the many different ways things are impacting you, including something that you actually, that's apparent to yourself, like your health, like the way you view the world, like finance, like friends, like career, like the country that you're in, like the time that you're watching this video. Like these are all going to have an impact on you. And in order for you or for anyone to achieve a good life planning, you have to look at holistically all these elements and how they impact your life. Okay, I think I've talked enough about the idea and the necessity of having this holistic approach. So in the future, we'll talk about different aspects of your life, and we'll try to find a way to quantize it. Effectively, we want to give, you can think of it like a formula. what happens if you overexert yourself? How will this impact some other aspect of your life? And how much attention can you really afford? What is some constraint that you have? And what are some constraints that cannot be bent? And what are some constraints that can be bent? And if you understand that, maybe you can approach life in a more thoughtful way. Now, let me give you a counterintuitive, well, a very obvious fact. We have more constraint than we want to admit. Like right now, I'm breathing, I'm affected by gravity, I'm affected by my physical nature, and so are you. But we care about in the world the little details that we have in life, like what kind of car do I drive, how does another person make me feel, but because ultimately, if you can accept the life the way it is, and if you can just continue to accept the way it is, you don't need to change. You don't need to do new things. So maybe that will be another goal. But you also have to, even when you don't want to do any change to your life, you still have to think about risk. Because, like I said before, you may think that's how you think now, but 20 years later, you may have a midlife crisis. Because that's the way it is. So yes, whether or not you want to change, you have risk. And we have to, well, at least I think our discussion will help me and help you understand what we can do and how we can build a system to manage it. I think I want to talk about one last thing. When you think about risk management, it is not about being right. It is almost always about being not right. Because you have to consider, what if I'm wrong? What if this whole system is wrong? You look around the world, you look at people across the street, and for most people, or for some people, I think, hey, they're really not that bright. And I can for sure to say that they will think the same about me. I'm not so bright. So I make a mistake. And my theories are probably very wrong. So I don't want to leave you guys with overly negative thoughts about not being able to find a good way, a good approach to life. Let me give you a fun thing. Try to think about something that is obviously wrong. Like just try it. Like something that's obviously wrong and inconsequential. And just try to think that it's correct. And humor yourself for a while. Because you don't have to make this so serious. For me, I think the earth is flat. And I know it's wrong, but I think it's funny to tell people that I think the earth is flat. And I tell people that it's probably wrong, but I still want to believe it. So that's risk management 101. Maybe that's the first tip. Try it. Try it at home. Find something that's obviously wrong, and again, inconsequential. and try to believe it. See where it gets you. So you can understand, none of this matters. It's all about perception and how you can arrange your life. What's right, what's wrong, in the end, just stay happy. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.